Okay guys, so now that you have a basic behind you of how to do Punnett squares and blood types and things like that, we're going to jump into how we can figure out if there are some abnormalities on chromosomes and things like that. So I'm sure you guys have a younger brother or sister or have seen at least pictures of ultrasounds. So this is an old-timey ultrasound of a picture they've taken of a woman who was pregnant. The baby's laying on its back, here's its head, here's its thigh, and the ones that they have nowadays are much more vivid and you can tell a lot better. But they do a couple of these while the woman's pregnant to see if there's any abnormalities. So let's say they see something they don't like. What they may do is another test called an amniocentesis. And what this actually means is puncturing the amnion. So while the woman is under an ultrasound machine, they'll take a needle and they will extract the fluid around the baby. Now they don't harm the baby. All it does is take a little bit of that liquid. And the reason they want it is because the baby's chromosomes inside the baby's cells are floating around in that fluid because they have no other place to go. So if you would like to see a video of that, it's an animation, so it's not going to turn your stomach or anything. I have attached the link to that before this lesson. Okay, so what they do is they get a picture of the baby's chromosome. Well, they get the cells, they get the chromosomes, and then they take a picture of it, so then the chromosomes don't decay. And then they're going to do something called a karyotype. So what they can do is line up all 46 chromosomes that a human has, make sure they're paired up and all that kind of stuff, and then they kind of look for issues, okay? Now, I know some of these look funny, like they're bent or crooked or whatever. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with them. That's just how they were when they took the picture. So the first term you need to know is a homologous chromosome. Basically, those are matching pairs. So obviously, you got 23 chromosomes from your mom and 23 from your dad. Remember, we did meiosis before. So this would be number 1 from mom, for example, and this would be number 1 from dad. So you pair them up. Notice that they're pretty big up here on top, and then they get smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, and it looks like we only have 22 pair, but if you'll look right here, there is a 23rd set, and these are called sex chromosomes. So this determines whether the person is a boy or a girl. Okay, so let's kind of fill out these terms here so you know. This one here, this whole picture, is called a karyotype. Okay, now the purpose of karyotypes is to determine if there's any genetic disorder. They will not do a karyotype just to figure out if it's a boy or a girl because it's a very expensive test. Okay, so all of these here, 1 through 22, these are called autosomes. And basically, they determine every single trait about you except whether you're a boy or a girl. The ones that do that is set 23 down here, which are sex chromosomes. And we'll talk about what this means in just a minute. So then the last one you need to know, this set here, that's just an autosomal pair. So again, 1 came from mom, 1 came from dad. Okay? All right, so let's skip down here to autosomes. Like I said, they determine all of your characteristics except your gender. We have 44 of those. So that determines hair color, height, intelligence, freckles or no freckles, etc., etc. Okay? The sex chromosomes are what determine whether you are a male or a female. Okay? So XX always ends up being a female, and then XY ends up being a male. So guys, how I remember that, XY is a guy. That's how I remember that. Okay? So 2 X's are female, and X and Y is a male. All right, so what kind of things can we see on a karyotype? We can tell if there are too many chromosomes, like maybe they didn't split properly during meiosis and you end up having 3 here. It's called trisomy, just like a tricycle has 3 wheels. Okay, you can have a missing chromosome, which is called monosomy. Mono means 1, like here. See how this one's supposed to have 2 and it only has 1? And then if you remember when we studied DNA, deletions, translocations, inversions, and insertions. So let's look at this example here on set 6. See how this arm is much smaller than it needs to be? So part of the chromosome was deleted. So these are just 3 of the things they can actually find on a karyotype. Okay, so let's see if my little tool here is going to work. If you're confronted with a karyotype, the first thing I want you to do is look at the last set of chromosomes, the X and the Y. Okay, so this one here, if you can tell, there's no Y, right? So it cannot be a guy. This one has 2 X's, so this one should be a female, and it is. And then if you notice, there's 2 everywhere, so there shouldn't be any problems. This one is a normal female, XX, okay? All right, let's look at this one over here. See how there's 1 X and 1 Y? So this one must be a normal male, XY, and that is correct. Okay, let me show you some of these other ones that can get kind of crazy here. So look at these sex chromosomes. Oh, what's going on here? We have an X and an X and a Y. Okay, so my first question for you, is it a guy or a girl? Well, if that Y is there, remember my little poem, XY is a guy. So this actually is a male, but he has an extra X chromosome. Okay, so this is something called Klinefelter Syndrome, and I'll let you look that up if you want to. But basically, it's a male, and unfortunately, many times they are sterile. They can't have children. And then, of course, sometimes they may develop different female characteristics because of that X. Okay, so let's see if you can figure out this one here. Tell me about this. 2 X's means it's a girl. Good. And then I want to show you this one actually has something wrong here. Look at set 21. How many chromosomes are there? 3. This is called Trisomy 21. So this would actually be a female with Down syndrome. We actually have a couple students who go to our school who have Down syndrome. This is quite common if the woman is older when she actually has a baby. So like for me, getting very, very close to 50, it would be dangerous for me to have children because my eggs are really old. We've talked about that before. So my chances of having a child with Down syndrome would be much higher. Okay, so this one, missing another sex chromosome. So this one is actually what we call 45XO, and it's not like hugs and kisses like we used to write when we were little. It basically means you have 45 chromosomes because you're missing a sex chromosome. So guy, girl, what do you think? Well, if it doesn't have a Y, it cannot be a guy. So this is actually a female. This is called Turner syndrome, so I'll let you Google that if you'd like. It is a female that is sterile, and sometimes they don't look very girl-ish, if you kind of know what I mean. Okay, so modern karyotyping is very different because a computer does everything for you, and it even color codes the chromosomes. So it's not like in old-timey days where scientists actually had to sit there and like move chromosomes around and figure it out. Computer does it now. So remember that these karyotypes are used for finding genetic disorders. It doesn't have to be on just a baby. Like if I was worried about something being wrong with me at my age now, they could do a karyotype. All they need is a blood sample, because right, all they need is my cells with my chromosomes in there. Okay, so what I'd like for y'all to do now is give the other 2 things attached a try. Make sure you watch those other 2 videos that I posted. And just remember, I'm only an email away. Have a good day.